Hi, everyone. I'm Kara Carden. I'm the editor of Storyworks Junior, and I am so glad that you're with us today. Happy World Read Aloud Day. It's kind of a big day for us here at Scholastic, so I'm really glad that you can all be with us to celebrate. So let me tell you what we're going to do. We have 9 editors reading some of our favorite stories to you for the next hour and 15 minutes or so. The first 5 stories are perfect for those of you in 2nd grade, in 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade. Then, around 30 minutes in, we'll read our middle school and high school stories. So for those of you who are in 6th grade and up, please stick with us if you'd like. I guarantee that all of our stories are fun and fascinating. Or if you'd like to come back in about 30 minutes, we'll kick off our middle school stories with a great article from Scope, which is our language arts magazine for grades 6 through 8. In the meantime, we really want to hear from you. So please give us your comments. You can tell us whose class you're in, what school you're in, what grade you're in, because I know that we have schools and teachers from all over the country with us today, which is so cool. So let us know you're out there. We might give you a shout out between stories. You can also let us know what you think of the stories or ask us any questions you may have, because everyone who comments is entered to win one of 5 free subscriptions to any Scholastic Classroom magazine that you'd like for next school year. So don't be shy. One more piece of business. Teachers, there's an About tab, and if you go there, you'll see that we have all the stories that we're reading today in PDF. So just click on the stories that you'd like. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to kick it off with one of my favorite fiction stories from Storyworks Junior. It's funny and it's relatable, and I can't wait to hear what you think of it. It's called The Uninvited Guests. Making friends is hard for Lily, especially when some creepy crawly creatures come to visit. By Kerry Madden. After school, the hallway is filled with kids heading in a million directions. Kneeling on the floor, I try my locker combination again. I hope nobody hits me with a backpack. Why isn't my lock working? I hate this school. I hate being new again. Why does my dad always get a new job? Why do I have to start at a new school almost every September? Charlotte, the girl with the locker above mine, looks down at me. Oh, Lily, not again. She opens her locker with 3 quick turns. Then she opens my locker. How'd you figure out my combination? I ask her. You say it out loud every time you try to open it, she answers. Oh. My face turns candy apple red. You'll get it. See you in gym class, she says. She walks away. I nod, but in my brain I'm yelling, don't go. Please be my friend, I'm begging you. And then, a miracle, she turns around. I'm having a sleepover with some girls at my house this Saturday. You want to come? I almost faint with joy, but somehow I manage to nod and say yes. A problem with the plan. When I get home, I tell my mom the amazing news. Guess what? I have a friend. Hooray, Mom says. And she invited me for a sleepover. Great, Mom says. Saturday night. Mom gives me that look. What? I ask. Honey, it's Sam's birthday. At that very moment, my 6-year-old brother, Sam, bounces into the room. Mom gives me a look that means, I'm sure you'll make the right decision. What am I supposed to do? Birthdays are huge in our family. It's because we move all the time. We have to depend on each other for parties. Our dad always dresses up to make it more fun. At past parties, he's been a pirate, a caveman, a witch, and Justin Bieber. Sam says, Mom, I want Dad to be a mermaid this year. I almost laugh, but I'm too upset to laugh. Sam goes on and on about his amazing plans, but I can't listen. Somehow, I'll have to let him know in a nice way that I'm going to miss the celebration, because there's no way I can miss Charlotte's sleepover. It just gets worse. That night, I'm trying to open my practice lock. Mom and Dad come into my room. Dad says, Lily, we need to talk to you. I know what's coming. They'll make me miss the sleepover. The school called, Mom says. There seems to be a lice problem. Only with the 1st graders, I say. The nurse said a 4th grade girl has it too, Mom explains. She said we have to check your head. I'm sure I'm fine, I say, but I bend my head forward to get it over with. Mom pulls my hair apart to check it. Then she jumps back. Dad looks closer and says, "Wow, look at that." "What's the matter?" I try not to freak out. "Quit scaring me." "Don't be scared." Mom smiles, but her smile looks fake. Then she hands Dad the car keys. The secret is out. Dad speeds off to the store. He comes home with 3 lice shampoos and a special steel-toothed comb. He takes me into the bathroom and starts to pick the nits off my head like he's a mother gorilla. He says, "This could be a learning experience about not sharing combs or hats." "I don't share combs and I don't wear hats," I say. I hate it when Dad tries to turn a disaster into a learning experience. How am I going to tell Charlotte? It's bad enough I'm the new girl. Now I'm the new girl with cooties. My life is over. Mom uses the lice comb. It takes her hours to get through my hair. Then Sam, who loves anything gross or weird, barges in. He says, "Ew, can I see the bugs?" "Get out," I yell. But does he listen? No, he stays right where he is. "Mom, make him leave," I shout. Sam says, "Oh, some girl named Charlotte called, but I said you couldn't talk because you had lice." "You what? How could you?" "What?" Sam says. "Lots of kids get it. It's no big deal." "Sam!" I try to reach for his throat to strangle him, but he ducks out fast. I try not to cry. It feels like my whole head is itching. A happy surprise. The lice camp out on my head. I don't go to school for 2 days. I don't call Charlotte back either. I don't want to. Not now that she knows the gross truth about me. On Friday morning, Mom and Dad do another search. They decide my head is clean. At school, I see Charlotte at our lockers. I don't talk to her. She pretends not to see me. When I open my locker, in 3 quick turns, Charlotte says, "That's good, Lily, first try." Then she whispers, "Are you mad? I hope you don't think I gave you lice." "What? You had it too?" "Yeah, my mom freaked out and sent me to a professional nitpicker. That's why I called you. But when you didn't call back, I thought you were mad." "Wow, I thought I might have given it to you. How did we even get it?" Charlotte says, "I bet it was those first graders." Then she asks, "Do you still want to sleep over Saturday? My other friends can't come. Their moms are scared of lice. But we could still go get together." I start to say yes. Then I have an idea. "Hey, Charlotte," I say, "have you ever seen a grown man dressed up as a mermaid?" The end. So I love that story because there are so many ideas in it. The author really packs in a lot of different themes. It's about what it's like to be the new kid, what it's like to move all the time, what it's like to want to be friends with somebody, what it's like to finally get included in something, what it's like to have an annoying little brother, and of course, what it's like to have lice. I will not tell you if I can relate to that part of the story or not. So I hope you enjoyed it. Next, we have a story from Super Science. And with us, we have Alessandra Potenza.
Hi.
Hello, Alessandra.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So tell us about the article that you're reading.
Yeah, I'm going to be reading from our February cover story, Monkey Crossing, which is about this very cute little monkeys.
Adorable.
They live in Brazil.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And Super Science is for students in grades
4th to 6th.
Okay, great.
Monkey Crossing. How building a bridge could help save golden lion tamarins in Brazil. A tiny monkey jumps from tree to tree in a rainforest in Brazil. It's chasing a tasty bug to eat. Suddenly, the trees dead end at a highway. The bug escapes and the monkey has nowhere to go. This adorable primate is a golden lion tamarin. It lives in the Atlantic forest along Brazil's eastern coast. That area has been ravaged by deforestation. Over centuries, people have cut down most of the forest to make space for cities and farmland. What's left are isolated pockets of trees. Living in these fragmented areas puts the tamarins in danger. If the animals can't move around to find food and mates, they can't survive. Luckily, scientists are working on a solution. They're helping to build a bridge over a major highway dividing the forest. Tamarins will be able to use the bridge to travel between 2 sections of forest on either side. That should give tamarins the room they need to thrive. It's about keeping nature connected, says ecologist Clinton Jenkins. He's the vice president of Saving Species, a conservation group involved in the project. Nobody likes to be trapped in a little place. Losing ground. Golden lion tamarins were once common in parts of the Atlantic forest, but for decades, people hunted them for food and because they thought the animals carried diseases. By the 1970s, fewer than 200 of the tamarins remained in the wild. So scientists began breeding them in zoos and releasing them into their natural habitat. Today, about 2,000 golden lion tamarins live in Brazil, but they're still endangered. Part of the problem is that a major highway called BR-101 cuts right through parts of the forest where the animals live. It's impossible for the tamarins to cross the highway, says Erin Willigan, the executive director of Saving Species. They're imprisoned on either side. Bridge builders. Scientists are teaming up to help the tamarins. They designed a bridge that will connect two sections of the tamarins' habitat. The bridge will be covered with soil, grass, and trees to make it look like the natural forest. In the past few months, the scientists have been planting trees on each side of BR-101. When those trees mature, they will bring the edges of the forest right up to the sides of the bridge. Tamarins will be able to use the bridge to safely travel between two forested areas. We're going to bring families of tamarins closer to each other, says Stuart Pym, the president of Saving Species. Connecting different tamarin populations will be good for the whole species. When animals mate, they pass along genes to their offspring. Populations of animals that have a diverse mix of genes are better able to fight off diseases. The bridge in Brazil is mainly for the tamarins, but scientists expect other animals, such as wildcats, will use it too. Different species in an ecosystem depend on each other to survive, so protecting individual animals should help preserve the biodiversity of the whole Atlantic forest. Room to roam. Paths that connect animal habitat, called wildlife corridors, have been built all over the world. Some are bridges that traverse highways. Others are tunnels under roads. These paths help animals move around while avoiding cars. Scientists hope that wildlife corridors will also help animals cope with climate change. As temperatures rise, animals will need to move to cooler places to survive. If you're imprisoned in an area, it's going to be really hard to move, Pym says. Workers began constructing the bridge for the tamarins in November 2018. It's just the first corridor that Saving Species once built in the Atlantic forest. The group hopes to connect other patches of trees where animals live. With a large enough forest, golden lion tamarins have a good chance at survival, Willigan says.
Nice. Thank you. And you wrote this story.
Yeah, I wrote it, and I'm very excited that it made the cover because I really think the golden lion tamarins are super cute.
Right. And so it was interesting because when you began writing this, tell us a little bit about where the project was at the time.
Yeah, when I started reporting on the story, they had this idea, but they hadn't started actually building the bridge. They were still waiting for some permits and for the construction to begin. But by the time we published the story, I received an email from one of the scientists saying that actually construction of the bridge had started. And that made me very happy because it meant the project was going forward and it was actually something that's happening, and it's happening right now in Brazil.
It's really cool. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so don't forget, send us your comments, your questions. Let us know where you are. We'd love to know who's out there with us today. Next up, we have Jorge Escobar, and he'll be reading a great fiction story from Storyworks, which is our language arts magazine for grades 4 and 5. Thank you. Before you start, let me say hi to, we have teachers really from everywhere. We have Carver Elementary. We have a class in Mineral Wells, Texas, Wilmington, California, Trenton, Ohio, Holland, Pennsylvania, Morrisville, North Carolina, Norfolk, Massachusetts, Westerly, Rhode Island. I have a friend who lives there. East Orange, New Jersey, not far from where I live. This is fun. Louisville, Kentucky, Baton Elementary, Fairview Elementary, Sullivan Elementary. I'm not done. Lewisberry, Pennsylvania, Livonia, Michigan. We have a class from Wisconsin. I know it's a little chilly there. Hope you guys are doing okay. Sharpsburg, Georgia, and Mrs. Belcher's class in Houston, Texas. Hello. Thank you, everybody. Okay, Jorge, let's hear it.
Hi, Kara. Hi, everyone. Today, I'm going to read from Storyworks, Brave Chicken. Brave Chicken by Donna Gebhardt. Izzy wants to make a difference. Can a chicken suit help?
We'll find out.
We'll find out. Izzy sat across the kitchen table from her friend Victor and stared at two large chicken costumes. She nervously nibbled on a fingernail. Don't be a chicken, Victor said. It's only a costume. Besides, it's probably our last year to go trick-or-treating. Let's go big or let's go home. Victor, Izzy sighed. I'm not dressing as a giant chicken for Halloween. Everyone will stare at us. Buck, buck, buck. Victor put his hands in his armpits and flapped. Izzy bit her lower lip. She wished she were brave like Victor. Last week, when kids at their lunch table started flinging tater tots at each other, Izzy didn't say anything, even though she knew the nice lunchroom monitor would have to deal with the mess. But Victor had yelled at everyone to cut it out and clean up, and they did. Victor was the opposite of a chicken. For once in your life, be brave. Victor held a chicken costume out to her. Sorry, she muttered. Izzy was planning to wear the same costume she wore in the past two Halloweens, an old-fashioned reporter's hat and notebook. No one ever guessed Izzy was dressed as Nellie Bly, a famous newspaper writer from the 1800s. As a young reporter, Nellie was known for being fearless. She pretended to be mentally ill to report on terrible conditions in an asylum. She got herself arrested in order to investigate a prison. She even traveled around the entire world by herself, writing a book about her adventures. Izzy was nervous just to go trick-or-treating around her own neighborhood. As usual, Victor was right. On Halloween, everyone loved his chicken costume. They smiled, they laughed, as he approached on large orange feet and waggled his wings. Those same people had no idea who Izzy was supposed to be. Later, when they dumped their candy onto the carpet in Izzy's living room, Victor had way more full-size candy. Izzy jealously eyed the giant Snickers, but wasn't brave enough to ask for it. Nellie Bly definitely would have asked, or she would have just grabbed it and taken a big chocolatey bite. I've got to learn to be brave, Izzy told herself, so I can become a reporter someday like Nellie Bly. The next morning, Izzy read the newspaper with her dad, like always. Did you see this? He asked. It's an article about the new law letting people raise chickens in their backyards. The city council is voting on it at a special meeting this Saturday. Some people really don't want the law to pass. Why not? Izzy asked. Having chickens in your backyard would be great. You could get eggs whenever you want. They think the chickens will make a lot of noise and spread diseases. Izzy's dad handed her the newspaper. Here, read it. Something stirred inside Izzy as she read. Who wouldn't want chickens to roam free in nice people's yards? After school, Izzy went online to do more research. She learned that chickens need space and fresh air to thrive, that cooped up in small cages, they can't grow properly. Izzy thought back to the chickens she's seen at her neighborhood's fall fair last month, squeezed wing to wing in cramped coops. They barely had enough space to turn around. Izzy had wanted to set them all free, but she had never dared to do something like that. As Izzy researched, an email popped up on her screen. It was from her school Friends of Animals Club. Join the march at Town Hall to support the law allowing backyard chickens, the email read. Thinking about joining a public march made Izzy's stomach hurt. But at least she'd be doing something to help the chickens. At dinner that night, Izzy said, "Dad, some kids from the Friends of Animals Club at school are marching on Saturday to support the chicken law." Her voice quavered. "I want to go with them." Izzy's dad chewed thoughtfully. "Honey, I'm proud of you for wanting to go help the chickens," he said, "but I'm not sure about this. What if marchers from the other side show up and cause trouble?" Izzy hadn't thought of that. Her heart pounded. What if it gets out of hand and police come? Izzy had been secretly hoping her dad wouldn't let her go, but now she thought again of the chickens crammed into tight cages at the fall festival. She imagined how much happier they would be wandering through a sunny backyard, the wind tickling their feathers. That would never happen if the law didn't pass on Saturday. "Dad, please," she said. "Chickens can speak up for themselves. Someone has to do it." Izzy's dad smiled. "You can go if you promise to stick with other kids from school. And see if Victor will go with you." Izzy swallowed past the tightness in her throat. "Great," she said weakly. Later, Victor was excited about joining the march. "We can wear the costumes from Halloween. That way, people driving by will notice us and pay more attention to what we have to say." Izzy didn't want people to pay more attention to her, but she reminded herself it was for the chickens. "Okay," she agreed. Putting the finishing touches on the sign she was making, it read, "Chickens need open space and fresh air." Victor said, "Stand up for chickens. Vote yes on the law." As the day of the march came closer, Izzy felt more and more shaky. What if a fight broke out with the people who didn't want the law to pass? What if the police were called? What if she went to jail? Izzy wanted to talk to Victor at school on Friday. She knew he'd make her feel better, but he wasn't there. On Saturday morning, Izzy was too worried to eat much at breakfast. Could she really stand in front of town hall wearing a chicken costume and holding a sign that some people wouldn't like? The doorbell rang, making her jump. "Must be Victor. I'll get it." Victor's nose was bright red. He sneezed 4 times in a row. He was holding only one chicken costume and a tissue. "Where's the other costume?" Izzy asked. "I'm thick," Victor coughed. "Too thick to go." "But Victor, you can't be sick. Not today." Victor shrugged. "Sorry." He handed Izzy the costume. "I'm going back to bed. Achoo." Izzy clutched the costume to her chest. "I can't do this alone," she thought. "Sure you still want to go?" her dad asked from behind her. Izzy wasn't sure at all, but she grabbed her sign and headed out toward the car. As they pulled into the parking lot near Town Hall, Izzy's stomach hurt. She saw a crowd of people in front of the building yelling and holding signs. Some of the signs had a red slash over a chicken and the words, "Not in our neighborhood." "You definitely want to go out there?" Izzy's dad asked. "No," she wanted to scream. "I can take you back home." Izzy thought again of Nellie Bly. She wondered if Nellie would wear a chicken costume. Izzy decided she would, for a good cause. She opened the car door and put one rubbery chicken foot on the ground, then the other. Nellie Bly must have been scared to do things she did, Izzy realized. But she did them anyway. "Hey, who's the chicken?" one of the kids from the Friends of Animal Club yelled. I'm no chicken, Izzy thought. It's me, Izzy. She walked toward the group. I'll pick you up at lunch, her dad called. Text if you need anything before then. Izzy waved a wing at him. She joined the others as they marched back and forth in front of Town Hall, holding up their signs and yelling, "Vote yes on the law." Don't be a chicken. Other people nearby yelled, "Vote no on the law." Izzy trembled, but she kept marching. And as she walked and shouted, she stood a little taller in her chicken costume. Some people drove by and honked. I'll just give her a thumbs up. Izzy kept marching and yelling till her throat was sore. A news van pulled up, and a reporter walked toward Izzy. "Can I ask you a few questions?" she asked. Izzy nodded her head, her chicken head. "What's your name, and why are you here?" "My name is Izzy. I'm here to stand up for the chickens. They deserve fresh air and plenty of room to roam." Then Izzy swallowed hard and pulled her chicken self up straight. "You know, I'm going to be a reporter like you someday." And like Nellie Bly, she said to herself. "Hey," the reporter said, "would you like to write a short article about the march from a young marcher's perspective?" Before Izzy could think, the word yes had popped out of her mouth. The next morning, Izzy walked over to Victor's house to return the chicken costume and bring him a container of homemade soup. "I hope you feel better soon, Victor," she said. But Victor seemed to have completely forgotten about his call. "I saw your article in the newspaper today," he said excitedly. "And the council's yes vote. I'll bet the march had a big effect on that vote." Izzy smiled and nodded. "You did it," Victor said. "You were a brave chicken. Achoo."
Yay.
The end.
Thank you. I think that's such a great story because it's really about how hard it is or how hard it can be to do the right thing, to stand up for what you believe in. And we, in our magazines, we write about children and students who kind of push past their fears and do it anyway.
Yeah, it's a great story.
Good. All right.
Thank you for having me, Karen.
Thank you. Thanks, Jorge. Okay, next up, we have Alexa Curzius. She's with us from Dynamath Magazine. So tell us a little bit about Dynamath and the
Sure.
story you're going to be reading.
Hi, everyone. Dynamath is a magazine for kids in grades 3 through 5. And I'm going to read a story about a very ordinary object, a pencil. It's called Engineering the Right Stuff. Peek inside one of America's last pencil factories. Since my first day of kindergarten, almost 30 years ago, I've been writing with a pencil. But I had never thought about how they are made. Have you? That changed when I visited one of America's last pencil factories in Jersey City, New Jersey. General Pencil was founded in 1889. It's been making pencils for more than 100 years. General Pencil is the oldest pencil company in America. It's also one of the last standing. Nearly all U.S. pencil companies have either gone out of business or they have closed their factories in the U.S. The sights, sounds, and smells of the factory make it an exciting place to be. When I visited, machines were cranking out about 3,000 pencils an hour. "We love making pencils," says Katie Weissenborn-Vanacini, president of General Pencil. Inventing the pencil. People have been using writing tools for thousands of years. More than 5,000 years ago, ancient people known as Mesopotamians invented the world's first writing system. They created a writing tool called a stylus. Fun fact, they also were the first to document the solving of math problems. After that, the ancient Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans all wrote with styluses too. Sometimes, styluses were made with lead, which is why the idea that pencils contain lead remains today. They don't. They contain graphite, a mixture of clay and black carbon. In the mid-1500s, farmers in England used graphite to mark sheep. By the end of the century, people began placing sticks of graphite into wood sleeves. The pencil was born. Engineering a pencil factory. Most of the graphite for pencils came from England and Germany in the late 1800s. Edward Weissenborn, Vanacini's great-great-grandfather, learned how to make pencils in Germany during this time. He moved to America in 1854. He wanted to create the country's first pencil factory. Weissenborn trained as a mechanical engineer. He used his knowledge to build pencil-making machines. In his lifetime, Weissenborn came up with 360 machine designs for different parts of the pencil-making process. Many parts of the process are still in use today. Weissenborn opened his pencil factory in 1860. People really liked his work. 4 members of President Abraham Lincoln's cabinet complimented him on the quality of his pencils. Later, Weissenborn's son started a new factory that became the home of General Pencil. Making pencils today. Inside General Pencil, thousands of pencils in dozens of colors are produced every hour. First, machines make the graphite core. They mix clay, water, and carbon. Pigments get added for colored pencils. Then, machines bake the graphite core into a broad cylinder. It's called a pencil cake, but you wouldn't want it for your birthday. The cake is cut into small rods. These become the pencil cores. Meanwhile, workers load flat pieces of wood into another machine. The factory uses cedar because it doesn't splinter like other woods do. The machine carves grooves into the wood to fit the graphite cores. Another piece of wood is attached on top. The result? It's called a pencil sandwich. Finally, machines cut the pencil sandwich into individual pencils. Each is painted and then topped with a metal band and an eraser. Then they're packed and shipped across the country. The factory makes about 24,000 pencils a day, almost 9 million pencils a year. The fall is one of the company's busiest times. Lots of people want new pencils when they head back to school.
Thank you. So first of all, does anybody notice anything interesting about what Alexa's wearing? Can we make the connection? The color of a pencil? Very good. So you reported that story. What was it like to go to the factory?
It was amazing. It felt like a time capsule, really, to see a factory that's over 100 years old and to see machines that were designed with science in mind and that they're still operating today and delivering a material, item that we consider so ordinary but is so useful to all of us. It was really magical.
That's great. All right, well, thank you. So before we move on to our middle school stories, we'll see if we have anybody out there we want to give some shout outs to. Let's see who we've got. Thank you. Oh gosh. Elliott Point Elementary, hello. Pioneer Elementary, Cowan Elementary. We have a class in Lombard, Illinois, Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, Bowling Green, Kentucky, Wilchester Elementary, Meadows Academy in Tanzania. I'm so touched. This is great. Grafton, Massachusetts, Winona Elementary, Seaview Elementary. Okay, that's all for now. All right, next I want to welcome to our Read Aloud, Kristen Lewis. She's the editor of Scope. Hello.
Hello.
And she also writes most of their really big features. So today she's going to read Lost in Death Valley. Tell us a little bit about this story.
So Lost in Death Valley is actually one of my favorite stories that I've ever written for Scope. And it's this incredible story about a teenage girl, her friend, and her mother who became lost and stranded in Death Valley National Park. And you can probably imagine by a name like that, this is not a great place to get lost in. For those of you who might not know where Death Valley is, it's right on the border between Nevada and California. It's this beautiful wilderness area about the size of Connecticut. And it's also the hottest place in North America. Record temperature, 134 degrees.
Wow.
So these women really went through quite an ordeal there.
Yeah. All right, well.
Shall we start?
Yes, and real quick before we begin, don't forget, you send in your comments. Everyone's entered to win one of 5 free subscriptions to any Scholastic magazine of your choice for next year. Okay, Kristen, without further ado.
Lost in Death Valley. The incredible story of 3 women lost in one of the most dangerous places on earth and their fierce determination to survive. Death Valley is the hottest place on earth. The searing heat sucks the air out of your lungs and scorches the bottoms of your feet. It's so dry that a corpse can shrivel into a mummy. Every year, at least one person dies here. It was in this desert inferno that on July 22nd, 2010, 17-year-old Gina Cooper, her mother Donna, and their friend Jenny Lung, 19, became stranded. Lost with no cell service and very little water, their chances of survival were slim and getting slimmer by the moment. Blazingly hot. Like so many disaster stories, this one begins unremarkably, with a plan for a pleasant day trip. Jenny, a student from Hong Kong, was spending the summer with Donna, who lived in Pahrump, Nevada. Donna was eager to show Jenny the spectacular sights of the West. Already they'd seen the Grand Canyon, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. Now Donna wanted to show her Death Valley. Gina decided to come along, and the 3 set out for Scotty's Castle, a historical site and museum from the 1920s. Death Valley National Park is a place of staggering beauty and devastating extremes. The more than 3 million acre park is a geological wonder, having been twisted and mashed over hundreds of millions of years by volcanoes and earthquakes. Rocky snow-capped mountains jut thousands of feet into the sky, while vast salt flats and sand dunes sizzle in the sun on the valley floor below. Summer temperatures soar well above 120 degrees Fahrenheit. The record is 134. These extremes are brutal, but also fascinating, which is why nearly 1 million people visit the park each year. Most come during the cool winter months. Donna, Gina, and Jenny knew that visiting in July meant extreme heat. But it would be a short trip, mostly in Donna's air-conditioned car. So Donna packed food and water for the day and stocked the car with maps, a roadside hazard kit, tools, blankets, phone chargers, and a first aid kit. Little did she know, they would soon be in a fight for their lives. What went wrong? As planned, the women spent a few hours at Scotty's Castle. They left for home around 3 p.m. On their way out, they passed a sign for the racetrack, one of Death Valley's star attractions. It's a large, dried-up lake bed called a playa, scattered with rocks that seem to move on their own, leaving striking tracks in the dirt behind them. The women decided they shouldn't miss the chance to see it. They drove and drove and drove. They came to an intersection of dirt roads called Tea Kettle Junction. That must have been where they took a wrong turn because they began gaining elevation, winding up into the mountains. They tried to head back the way they'd come, but with each passing mile became more lost. Everything looked the same, Donna says. It was awful. Only the park's main roads were shown on their map, so they turned on the car's GPS. With cool certainty, the GPS delivered directions. Turn right in 500 yards, continue straight ahead for 1 mile. To their dismay, it soon became clear that the GPS was useless. Such mapping systems are notorious for leading travelers astray in remote places like Death Valley. The year before, a woman had gotten lost there following her GPS. She survived, but tragically, her 6-year-old son did not. Hours went by. The women had driven hundreds of miles. The fuel tank drifted toward empty, as did their supply of drinking water. Darkness fell, and a blaze of stars tore open the sky. Around 10 p.m., the car sputtered to a stop. They were out of gas. By now, their friends and families were gripped by worry. Among them was Donna's eldest daughter, Sky, 21, who lived in Florida. She had just had surgery, and when her mother failed to call and check in, Sky knew something was terribly wrong. Grim news. Around 6 a.m., Donna, Gina, and Jenny awoke from a long and frightening night in the car. Looking around, they realized how truly desperate their situation was, yet they remained clear-headed. They decided that Gina would set out on foot to look for signs of life. While she was gone, Donna and Jenny foraged for food. They found some pine needles, which are nutrient-rich, and some cactus, though these proved too difficult to eat, even using Donna's knife. 2 hours later, Gina returned with grim news. She had seen car tracks, but no people, only parched and barren land. By now, only a few sips of precious water remained, and the heat was growing steadily more oppressive. Gina begged her mom to try starting the car again. It seemed pointless. The car was out of gas. But why not? Donna put the key in the ignition and turned it. Vroom, the car sprang to life.
I like the suspense there.
The page turn. The search begins. Back in Florida, Sky, frantic with worry, hacked into her mom's credit card statement online, hoping for some clues as to her whereabouts. She saw that her mom had purchased a T-shirt at Scotty's Castle the day before. Immediately, Sky contacted the California Highway Patrol, CHP, and a search was launched. Scouring the 5,200 square miles of Death Valley, a region the size of Connecticut, is a slow and painstaking process. Already, the women had been missing for 24 hours. Finding them as soon as possible was critical. Meanwhile, Donna, Gina, and Jenny found themselves on a road, if it could be called a road, that was utterly insane. A series of steep hills that rose and fell sharply, one after the other. Donna gunned the car up each one, then let gravity take them down. If we got stuck between hills, I knew we were done for, she remembers. We'd never be able to climb out. Gina gripped the passenger handle in terror. On one especially violent bump, it ripped right off in her hand. And then they saw it. Off in the distance was a stand of trees, a splash of glorious green in a sea of desolate brown. They'd actually glimpsed the trees the day before after they'd lost their way. Now, their lives depended on making it back to those trees. Because where there are trees, there is water. They drove until they ran out of gas, this time for good. Thankfully, the trees were only a short hike from the car, but every step was agony. It was at least 125 degrees. The superheated rocks on the ground burned their feet through their shoes. The human body is not made to withstand such high temperatures. Sweat pours forth, leading to dehydration. Heart rate speeds up. The brain becomes addled, making it difficult to think, much less make life-saving decisions. Heat stroke sets in, and organs begin to shut down. Without treatment, death will follow. But Donna, Gina, and Jenny were not about to give up. They arrived at the trees and discovered something incredible: 3 trailers and a small covered porch. The chance of finding that in the middle of Death Valley was 1 in a million, Gina says. The crude campsite would become their lifeline. Gina broke into one of the trailers using tools she doggedly retrieved from the car. They found stale oatmeal, cans of beans, beer, and some jerky so old it had turned white. It was slim pickings, but Donna was over the moon. I thought, okay, I can keep us alive for 2 weeks on this, she said. They found 2 mattresses and dragged them out to the porch. That night, any sleep was hard-won in the unrelenting heat. In the morning came what would prove to be the best find of all. On the back of one of those trailers was a hose. They turned it on, and to their utter joy, hot water gushed out. It was the worst water I'd ever tasted, but also the best, Gina says. That day, the women had a lot to do. They explored the area, looking for anything they could use. They broke into the other 2 trailers and found a radio. Gina hooked it up to the car battery, but the heat was too intense to stay in the sun long enough to raise anyone on it. By then, Gina was sick with dehydration and exhaustion and felt unable to eat. Donna coaxed her into swallowing a few bites of oatmeal. The day wore on, and the women prepared for another night in the wilderness. Rescued. On July 25th, 2 CHP pilots, Tyler Johns and Scott Steele, were scouring the area from their helicopter. Their mission had been reclassified. It was a recovery. There was little hope of finding the women alive. The pilots were about to give up when they decided to take a final pass over one of the most remote parts of the park. And that is when they saw it, Donna's car. Down in the camp, Donna was helping Gina bathe when they heard Jenny screaming. Gina sprang from the water and, wearing a towel, ran outside to see Jenny wildly waving a yellow blanket. There, in the sky, a helicopter was flying straight toward them. They were saved. When Johns and Steele landed, they were overjoyed to find the women alive. The pilots arranged for a man known as Lizard Lee, who lived up in the mountains, to bring gas and show them back to the main road. Lee, the only resident for hundreds of miles, is a volunteer for the Park Service, patrolling the region for anyone unfortunate enough to get stuck there. In fact, Lee had spotted the women days earlier but had lost track of them. Giddy joy overtook the women as they raced out of the park. When they pulled into a gas station, it was as though they'd arrived at the finest restaurant in the world. Gina and Jenny tore through the aisles, grabbing nachos, hot dogs, chips, ice cream, soda, anything they could get their hands on, and shoveling the food into their mouths with wild abandon. Looking back, it's been 5 years since that terrible ordeal in the desert. Today, Gina and Jenny are both in school. Donna still sends Christmas cards to Johns and Steele. She has also become friends with the owners of the campsite that saved their lives. Gina looks back on what happened with a sense of pride. She says it changed her, made her more confident. Having survived something so horrible, she says she's prepared for anything life may throw at her. You have to be thankful for every day you get, Gina says.
That is an incredible story.
Yeah, these women really went through something.
Yeah. So what was it like reporting this story? You actually went to Death Valley.
Yes, well, it was quite an adventure. I'm from California. I grew up about 4.5 hours away from Death Valley, and I traveled out there. I worked with a scientist who took me on a tour of the park. Mm-hmm. We hiked in the mountains, went traipsing through the Badlands.
Not in July?
Not in July, but it was still pretty warm. It was April. It was about 100 degrees. Wow. So, and it truly is a place of staggering beauty that I recommend everyone visit, in spite of what these women went through. In fact, they still love Death Valley and have enormous respect for its wonders.
Wow.
But
I think another lesson I took from this story is it really pays to learn how to read a map.
Correct.
The GPS part of this detail terrifies me, to think that you could just be driving along like, oh, they're telling me where to go, and then all of a sudden you're realizing we have no idea.
We have no idea where we are. But the GPS is so confident.
Yes,
it's misleading sometimes
right.
in these wild places. Yeah.
Well, an amazing story of resilience.
Thank
you so much for sharing it with us. And has anybody out there been to Death Valley? Let us know, and let us know who else is with us. All right, Kristen, thank you so much. And as we get ready for our next reader from Art Magazine, Kristen, can I ask you to come back?
Yeah, sure.
We have some questions for you. Can you tell us, I think these are pretty easy.
Okay.
What was your favorite part of researching this story?
Can I have two?
Yes.
I think speaking with Donna, I spoke with her a few times about her experience, was just very exciting to me to hear someone, she just had so much confidence and so much wisdom. She was very inspiring to me. And also just being in Death Valley, it's there's no water there. I can't begin to describe what it's like to stand in a place where there's virtually no water.
So those trees, where was the water source?
There are like a few little
Like streams
underground streams that may flow at certain times of the year.
Yeah.
And there is some life there. And it's obviously, anything that grows there is very sturdy.
Right.
But I highly recommend visiting.
And do you have a video?
Oh, I do have a video about how I wrote the story and my trip out to Death Valley. We can share the link in the comments.
Great. All right, we'll do that. This is a fun question because I actually sit with Kristen. We are office roommates. So how many rough drafts did you write? Someone wants to know. This is like your favorite thing to share.
It's my favorite thing. So for this story, if memory serves, I probably did about 12 drafts.
Wow.
My record is 17. Yeah, but you have to
Each one gets better.
Each one gets better, and you
Yeah.
have to keep going until it's ready for publication.
And we should let students know that you have a lot of readers involved, and that's a big, feedback is a big part of the process.
Probably 6 or 7 different readers take a look at everything I do before it gets printed.
Yeah, you need fresh eyes because you're so immersed in it.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to research this story? How long did you work on it from start to finish?
Probably about 6 to 8 weeks by
Wow.
the time I had the idea and started reading books and scheduling interviews. And
Kind of fast.
spent 3
I'm
days out there.
impressed.
It was pretty fast.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I think that's all.
Okay.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Those are great questions, everybody. And we want to say hi to Mrs. Green's class, the Ann Street School. We have a classroom from North Dakota, and we have Sunderland Elementary. I'm still blown away by the school from Tanzania. So if anybody's farther away from that, please identify yourself. Okay. Next is Amanda Di Natale. She's an editor from Art Magazine. Thank you for joining
everyone.
us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I think it is so cool that Art Magazine has debates. You want to tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about them?
Sure.
Okay.
So Scholastic Art is a magazine for grades 7 to 12, and in each issue we feature a debate which invites students to weigh in on a hot topic happening now in the arts. And it's an opportunity for students and teachers to engage in critical thinking and to write persuasively.
Excellent. Okay. So your first debate that you're going to share with us
Yes.
is about a family that painted their house in a very unusual way, right?
Yes.
And maybe if you hold it up, see what
So
you
this
think.
is the cover for this issue, which we're really proud of. It's so beautiful. And then here is the house that we're going to discuss in this debate. And does it remind you of a famous painting, maybe? You'll find out. Brush with the law. A family faces controversy after an unusual paint job. A family in Mount Dora, Florida, decided to give their house a new paint job last year. But instead of opting for an unassuming white or beige exterior, they decorated their entire home with stars and swirling clouds. The mural is meant to resemble Vincent van Gogh's famous 1889 painting, The Starry Night. Some people loved it, considering it public artwork, but city officials declared it an eyesore. Nancy Numhauser and her husband, Lubomir Jachewski, commissioned an artist to paint their house for their son, who has autism. This condition affects the development of language and social skills. Their son became fascinated with Van Gogh's masterpiece after he saw it in a book. The couple thought the mural would also serve as a landmark if their son were to ever have trouble finding his way home. The house quickly attracted attention. People stopped to stare and take pictures. Officials said the mural violated local codes regarding signage and that the house was a distraction. The city officials ordered the family to repaint their home, but they refused, believing that removing the mural would upset their son. As a result, the city fined the family more than $10,000. Nemhauser and Jachewski took their case to a federal court, saying that the city's restrictions violated their freedom of expression, a person's right to articulate their opinions and ideas. A judge agreed, and the city settled with the family by issuing a public apology, rescinding their fines, and paying $15,000 in damages. Additionally, the mayor of Mount Dora invited Nemhauser to join a new advisory board created to review future city ordinances. What do you think? Should communities have a say in how residents decorate their homes?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
And so on your website, you post the debates and then you invite students to share their opinions, right?
Yes. So in our debate on the article page, at the bottom, there's a little box, and you can weigh in with your comments about the article and where you fall in the debate. And we get some really, really great responses, which is a very exciting thing for us. So I'm going to read a few right now. And then if you want, after this or during, you can go and weigh in yourself.
Yeah.
So DNC says, the family should be able to make public art because it doesn't have a negative effect on the community. And it's on their private property anyway. Hashtag freedom to paint. Bab says, what a fantastic way to find your way home. We should do this for those suffering from Alzheimer's disease as well. Our home is our home and can make a statement. You can even get your neighborhood involved in the process, which I think is a fun idea.
Mm-hmm.
Jaden says, it was a good idea to paint it like Starry Night. Sure, it may have been a bit distracting, but it was made for a good cause.
I'm with Jaden.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think if I saw that as I was driving down the road, it would be really exciting,
Yeah.
and I would never lose my way home.
Right.
That's for sure.
Right. Okay, so we have another debate, and really let us know what you think of that one and the next one that Amanda's going to read. Go ahead.
So this year we made a whole Scholastic art issue on STEAM. And STEAM is an acronym that stands for the combination of science, technology, engineering, art, and math. And the debate that we featured in this issue covers the subject of robot artists. Robo-artists. Engineers have designed robots that can paint, but are these machines making art? A robot called Cloud Painter dips one of the brushes on the end of its mechanical arm into a cup of paint. It spins around and adds a final dab of color onto a canvas. It has just completed an original painting. But is this robot-generated portrait a work of art? Or is painting a form of expression that only a human can truly achieve? Engineers are designing robots sophisticated enough to paint impressive-looking works. In fact, it's often hard to tell that a person didn't paint them. Many of the bots recently showed off what they could do at the 3rd annual online Robo-Art competition, which Cloud Painter won. Invented by American artist and software engineer Pindar Van Arman, Cloud Painter functions using artificial intelligence, a computer system able to perform tasks normally associated with human intelligence, like making decisions. Van Arman programs the robot to paint without outside input, making choices as it works to improve its painting over time, just like a human artist. Van Arman says he's trying to replicate human creativity with his robot. While he admits Cloud Painter isn't quite there yet, he does believe it has developed its own unique artistic style. Cloud Painter also produces images that are new and unexpected. Critics argue that robots like Cloud Painter just appear to be creative. The machines only do what they've been programmed to do. The critics say robots lack human experiences, imagination, and emotions, which are necessary to give art meaning and value. Many artists think robots can serve as a useful tool, like a paintbrush, to help them make art. But that also raises the question of whether a robot or its designer should get credit for the works it creates. What do you think? Can a painting made by a machine ever equal one created by a person?
I'm a little on the fence.
Yeah, and if any of you are on the fence, we have a really short, fun video on our website, which you can find once you find this article, where you can see Cloud Painter in action painting.
That's cool. I want to see
Yeah.
that. Yeah, so we'll share that with you. Okay, so what did your readers have to say?
So James says, I understand where some critics are coming from when they say that paintings made by a robot should not be considered art. I think what they are trying to say is that the robots cannot use artistic values or emotion when creating a piece of art. I believe that a painting created by a robot should still be held in the same light as one made by an artist, because robotics is a form of art in itself. And yeah, I think that's a really enlightening idea that science and robotics is art. So the robot is the art.
Is the art itself, yeah.
And then last comment, Bryce says, in my opinion, a robot creating art or replicating an artistic masterpiece can never match that of a human's. Although they share some similarities, they couldn't be more different. Art to a human is usually expressed through the creator's imagination and creativity, which makes the piece have a personal touch. Robots, on the other hand, lack emotions and are simply just doing what they were programmed to do, which takes away the sentimental feeling of a masterpiece.
Well, Bryce has a point.
Right. Thank you for those comments, and I'm looking forward to hearing more.
All right, well, thank you so much, Amanda.
So much. Thank you.
We're going to shift gears a little bit from art and beauty to gross outs in our magazine Science World. So don't forget to keep your comments coming. We have Andrew Klein with us here today. Thank you, Andrew. And everyone who comments is entered to win one of 5 free subscriptions to any Scholastic magazine of your choice for next school year. Okay, welcome.
So I'm the editor of the Gross Out section in Science World magazine. It's a magazine for students in grades 6 through 10, and I'm going to read 2 of them to you today. But first, I want to tell you about how we come up with our ideas. It's very important that we find really compelling images that are gross but not too gross.
Yeah, that's a fine line.
Yeah, I mean, some people on our editorial team. Some people find something gross and some people don't. So once we figure out what everyone finds gross, that's what makes it into the magazine.
Yeah. Okay.
So the first one I'm going to read to you is Exploding Ant. And this was written by Stephanie Warren Drimmer. A newly discovered species of ant may look harmless on the outside, but inside these insects are ticking time bombs. When attacked, Colobopus explodens ants live up to their name. They explode. The blast releases poisonous yellow goo that stops their enemies in their tracks. Sea explodens are found in the tropical jungles of Borneo, an island in Southeast Asia. They live in colonies of thousands high up in the treetops, says Alice Lassany, an entomologist who studies insects at the Natural History Museum in Vienna, Austria. She and other scientists recently identified 15 species of exploding ants, including the previously unknown sea explodens. Ant colonies can contain several queens that lay eggs, along with workers who care for the queens and their young. Colonies also have soldiers with large plug-shaped heads and strong legs. Such features allow them to act like living doors, barricading the nest entrances from the inside, says Lassany. If an ant encounters an enemy outside the nest, it unleashes its adaptation. Each ant has a sac inside its body filled with sticky, toxic slime, says Lassany. It latches onto the enemy and squeezes its abdominal muscles hard enough that its backside bursts open, releasing the goo. Sea explodens sacrifices itself to kill its rival with its deadly chemical attack. The ants' defense, though, makes them difficult to study without killing them, explains Lassany. You need to be very careful collecting them. I found that just a touch with the finger can be enough to make them explode, she says.
Wow, I think that qualifies as a gross out.
Yeah.
And you have another story for us,
So we have
too.
another one. So one of the things with gross outs is that we don't like to repeat the same type of gross topic. So that was one about insects. Insects can look really gross and do a lot of gross things. So we have to really vary up the...
You can't rely on them too much.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So sometimes we can find some really gross human things, and this one is pruny hands. And it's about a rower that got very pruny hands, like when you go in a bathtub for too long.
But to the millionth degree.
Yeah.
I gasped when I saw this picture. Okay.
Okay, and this also is by Stephanie Warren Drimmer. Pruny hands. You've probably stayed in a pool or bath long enough that the skin on your fingers or toes wrinkles. That's what happened to English rower and 2-time Olympic gold medalist Alex Gregory, but way worse. After retiring from competition, Gregory didn't hang up his oars. Instead, he joined the Polar Row expedition, which aimed to be the first team to cross the Arctic Ocean in a human-powered vessel. In August 2017, Gregory and 5 other athletes rowed for 14 days. They battled icy temperatures and massive waves to travel 966 kilometers, or 600 miles, north from Norway's mainland to the tiny island of Jan Mayen, where they cut the mission short after their solar-powered navigation equipment died in overcast weather. When Gregory finally reached the shore, he removed his gloves and got a good look at his hands. They were almost unrecognizable. "I was a little surprised," he said. Gregory was suffering from a condition called warm weather immersion foot, which can affect the hands as well. It occurs when water gets trapped on the skin by gloves or socks. When the skin is left in this condition for hours, the top layer, called the stratum corneum, absorbs the water. It becomes soft and easily damaged, explains Maya Dabane, a dermatologist who treats skin disorders at Union Square Dermatology in San Francisco, California. Luckily, the condition is temporary. Gregory's hands started to return to normal a few hours after they dried out. Reflecting on the experience now, I'm truly amazed at what our bodies are capable of, he says.
I agree. Looking at those hands, will you show one more time?
Sure.
Looking at those hands, I would...
You sure you want me to show it again?
I would never imagine they'd ever get back to normal. Hours. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing.
I like his understatement. I was a little surprised.
And one of the best parts of Gross Out is hearing from the students about what their favorites are. We always love to meet students and hear what their favorites, because everyone finds different things gross.
Right.
So I would love to hear if there are any comments about
Yes,
what's
please tell us what's gross to you. What do you want to see in Science World? All right, so before you go anywhere, do we have more classes to say hello to? Yes, we do. We have Holland Middle School. We have Pine Island Elementary. We have Forest Avenue School. We have Whitesboro Middle School. So hello to all of you. Thank you for tuning in. All right, Andrew, thank you so much. Okay, so next we have 2 stories that I think you're really going to love. They're about some very inspiring teenagers. And here to read them is the editor of Action Magazine, Kim Trinnell. Welcome, Kim.
So happy to be here today. So today I'm going to read from our column called True Teen, and this appears in every single issue of Action, as you see here. And these are stories about real teens. They're not about famous teenagers or teenagers who have huge followings on social media. They're really about regular kids who just have something a little bit special or unique about them, or have a message that they want to share with others.
Okay, great. So let's start with...
So this one's called My Brother, My Hero, and it was actually sent to us as an essay by the girl you see here, Olivia Seeker.
That's fantastic.
And we were blown away by it. And we actually, wrote back to her and said, we want to work with you and make this into an Action True Teen.
How often does that happen?
Not that often, but we would love for it to happen more.
Yeah.
So
we want to hear from you.
Yeah. So My Brother, My Hero. Olivia, 15, knows how amazing her brother, Evan, is. That's why she wishes more people would get to know kids with special needs. By Olivia Seeker, as told to Jessica Press. When my brother Evan and I were little, we loved playing pretend. Sometimes we'd put the armchair covers over our heads and make believe they were our long hair. Other times we'd strap on our backpacks and imagine we were secret agents. Now that Evan is 12 and I'm 15, there are different things we like to do together. We watch videos on YouTube. We go swimming or run around outside. Evan makes me laugh really hard. He's so much smarter than any other 7th graders I know. But most kids never find out how funny, kind, and wise Evan is. That's because most kids don't get to know Evan at all. He doesn't get invited to birthday parties. He doesn't get picked first in gym class. Evan has a disability, and too many people see only the ways Evan is different. They don't see that in so many ways, he's just like anyone else. He loves video games, reading, and being outdoors. Evan's disability is just one small part of who he is. Daily challenges. Evan has faced challenges his entire life. He was born 15 weeks early and suffered bleeding in his brain. Because of this, Evan has something called cerebral palsy. It's a medical disorder that can cause problems with moving and speaking. Evan's cerebral palsy may make him seem different when you first meet him. He walks with braces on his legs, and sometimes he makes sudden sounds called tics. Evan also doesn't have as much social awareness as other kids his age. That means it can be hard for him to understand what other people are thinking and feeling. Sometimes that causes Evan to talk too much. But he doesn't mean to take over the conversation. Usually he's just really excited and doesn't want to lose people's attention. Getting stronger. The way Evan looks and acts can sometimes surprise people or make them uncomfortable. I get it. It's normal to be scared of something that's unfamiliar. But think about this. When Evan was born, doctors said he might never walk, talk, or swallow. He's worked so hard to be able to do these things. So what if he looks and sounds a little different when he does them? None of Evan's progress has come easy. From the time he was a baby, he has had many surgeries. Now he goes to about 9 different appointments every week. He does stretches every day before he puts on his braces. He works on his speech and breathing with an expert. And he visits doctors to help him strengthen his muscles. He also does a really cool therapy with horses. It helps him improve his speech and movement. Now he's even able to help with chores. As his sister, I'm so proud of all that Evan has achieved. Family bond. Don't get me wrong, Evan is still my little brother. He can annoy me as much as any little brother annoys his sister. I often get frustrated when my parents are easier on him. Sometimes I even resent Evan, and then I feel guilty for feeling that way. But mainly I want to protect Evan. I just want people to treat him normally. I hate when they stare at him, avoid him, or talk to him in a baby voice, as if he's dumb. When this happens, he'll reply, "I can hear you just fine. How are you today?" It always makes me laugh. And it reminds me that he doesn't need me to protect him. He's independent in his own way. Your power. Some days I wish Evan didn't have cerebral palsy. That way he wouldn't have to work so hard or feel so left out. But I'm also grateful for all that Evan's challenges have taught our family. We always support each other and have learned to have empathy for others. I know teens like me hear so many lessons about treating people equally. I know that it's easy to start to tune them out or think they don't apply to you. But please understand that every kid deserves to be included. You have the power to make that happen. It starts with the most simple thing. Just say hi.
I love that.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite stories we've ever done.
Great message. You have a video?
We do have a video for this. So typically with our True Teens, we'll do little 2-minute interviews with the kids. And this is an opportunity for us to let our readers get to know them a little better. You know, here we're talking about something very specific, her relationship with her brother. But in the video, you get to find out a little bit more about Olivia, what she likes, what she's into. Yeah. She's a swimmer, you know, that sort of thing.
Right.
So
great. So we'll share that video too. Good. Okay, so you have another story to share with us.
I have another True Teen. This one's from our January issue. And this is about another brother-sister, believe it or not. And these are 2 teenagers who lost their home in the California wildfires, not this past fall, but the fall before that.
Okay.
And True Teen is also a way for us to get at things that are in the news. So we love to see what's happening in the country, what kids are going through, whether they're affected by natural disasters or, you know, tragedies at their school, and find a face that we can kind of put on this and show them one person's story.
Right. Okay, great.
So this one's called Changed by Fire. Last December, Canyon, 14, and Sierra, 17, watched a wildfire destroy their California home. But these teens didn't give up hope. Instead, they made a film to help their community heal, by Michelle Crouch. It was a windy December night in Ventura, California. Canyon and his older sister, Sierra, were hanging out after dinner. Suddenly, the lights in their house went off. Then someone sent their mom a text. "There's a wildfire," it said. Their mom stepped outside. White smoke rose up in the distance. "Why don't you pack a few things in case we have to evacuate," she said. Using flashlights, Sierra and Canyon went upstairs to their rooms. Canyon grabbed his GoPro and Kindle. Sierra gathered some photos and her video camera. They each took their computers and threw clothes into a suitcase. They didn't know it would be the last time they would ever set foot in their rooms. Getting out. When Sierra and Canyon came downstairs, they could smell the fire. Their mom was rushing to pack. "We need to leave," she said, "now." As the family walked out the door, they were shocked by what they saw. High winds were causing the fire to move fast. It was this wall of orange and yellow and red, Canyon says. It was terrifying. Canyon and Sierra helped load the car. Black smoke filled the air and made it hard to breathe. "We could feel the heat," Sierra says. "The flames were so bright, it felt like daytime." As the family drove away, they passed 2 fire trucks speeding toward their street. The truck's sirens were blaring. Losing everything. The family spent that night with the family of Sierra's best friend. No one slept well. The next morning, they turned on the news. The newscasters called the fire the Thomas Fire. They said it was one of the worst wildfires in California history. Then the news showed the family's neighborhood, and everyone gasped. Almost every house was on fire or had burned to the ground. An hour later, they learned that their home and everything in it was gone too. Their bikes, books, and beds had burned. Baby pictures, school projects, their PlayStation, everything had gone up in flames. All that was left where their house once stood was the brick chimney and a pile of ashes. "I didn't want to believe it," Sierra says. "My best friend held me, and we just cried." A community project. The family moved into a hotel 2 days later. Friends gave them clothing and food. Local businesses offered things for free, like bicycles, shoes, and movie tickets. The whole community was supportive, but it was hard not to feel angry and sad. They talked as a family about what they could do to move forward. The wildfire had burned more than 200,000 acres and destroyed hundreds of homes. Canyon had an idea. What if they made a documentary about the fire? Sierra and Canyon began interviewing others who had lost their homes in the fire. At first, hearing their stories was hard, but Sierra and Canyon also felt better knowing they weren't alone. They began to see the documentary as a way to bring their community together. They called it From the Ashes Up. "We wanted people to know that it's okay to be sad after something like this, but you don't have to give up," Sierra says. "You can turn what happened into something good." Rebuilding. As word of the film spread, more than 50 people reached out to help. They loaned the teens equipment and helped them with editing. It became a true community project. Sierra and Canyon spent 6 months working on the documentary. Recently, they entered it in a local film festival. They also plan to show the film in their town. They hope it will help other people the way it helped them. For now, the family is living in another house temporarily, but they have been slow to fill it with furniture and new belongings. Instead, they have focused on spending time together. "The fire made me stronger," Sierra says. "It made me realize that having a bunch of stuff isn't important. Having a community of friends and family who love you matters most."
That's great.
Yeah,
that's
a really great message.
Beautiful. And again, is there a video where we can meet these?
Yeah, so actually the video for this one is a little different. We didn't do one of our 2-minute interviews because we actually have a video from these teens. We have the trailer that they used about the documentary when they'd started doing interviews, and they had used that to kind of, I believe, put on Facebook and get people to donate some money so that they could finish the film.
Right. So do you know what stage the documentary is in at this point?
I believe it's finished. Yeah.
All right. That's great. Wow. All right. Well, thank you so much. Okay. So we are getting close to wrapping up. Want to say hi to a school in Farmington, Illinois. We have South Middle School. We have a class in Tucson, Arizona. Hello to all of you. Happy World Read Aloud Day. Thank you for joining us. And we are at our final story. Thank you so much. This is Jennifer Hackett. Thank you for joining us. And you're here with Math Magazine.
I am. I'm here with Scholastic Math, which is for grades 6 through 9. And one of the fun things that we get to do is we get to tell some great current event stories about everything from animals to pop culture. But we also get to pair it with the real world math behind all the stuff you already love. Because we're big math nerds and we think math is everywhere and that's fun.
Yeah.
So today, speaking of fun animals, I'm talking about sloths. So
Who doesn't love sloths?
I mean, look at that guy. He's great. So this is all about sloths who swim. This is Searching for Sloths. Meet a scientist who is studying the world's slowest mammals, and it's by Catherine Tweed. Splash! A pygmy sloth drops out of a red mangrove tree, falling into the crystal blue water. It starts swimming by, leisurely paddling its long arms. Minutes later, the sloth reaches a nearby tree root. It slowly pulls itself up. Then, the sloth begins its slow climb up to the top branches of the tree in search of its next meal. All sloths can swim, but off the coast of Panama lives the only sloth known to swim in salt water, the pygmy sloth. Pygmy sloths are the most recently identified species of sloth. No one is sure how many there are, but there aren't a lot. Because they are so rare, scientists didn't determine they were a distinct species until 2001. Adults weigh about 6 pounds and are the size of a skunk. Pygmy sloths live on a small island about 10 miles off the coast of Panama. Smaller than average brown-throated sloths live on some of the nearby islands. So for a long time, when scientists came across a pygmy sloth, they thought it was a young brown-throated sloth. Like other sloths, pygmy sloths are not known for their speed on land. On average, sloths travel at most 120 feet per day. In the water, however, these Muppet-like mammals can swim at speeds about 3 times their pace on land. I was impressed by how capable and graceful they were in the water, says Becky Cliff. Cliff, a zoologist from the United Kingdom, has spent the past 5 years researching sloths. It takes a lot of patience and hard work to study these slow-moving creatures. The slow life. Sloths live in the rainforests of Central and South America. They have long arms like monkeys, but are actually related to anteaters. There are 6 species of sloths, which fall into 2 categories, 3-toed sloths and 2-toed sloths. They spend nearly all their time hanging from the upper branches of the highest trees in the rainforest, known as the canopy. They move so slowly that algae grows on their fur. Sloths aren't slow just when it comes to moving. It can take a whole month for a sloth to digest a single leaf. But this laid-back pace can be a lifesaver. Sloths often eat leaves that are toxic. If they were to digest the leaves too quickly, the sloths could be poisoned. Because it takes such a long time to break down dinner, a sloth can spend more than half its day resting as it digests. Studying sloths. Sloths are masters of camouflage. They sleep and keep still during the day. The green algae in their fur helps them blend into the forest canopy they call home. Spotting a sloth in the wild is tough work, but the rainforest itself also poses its own challenges to studying them. It's full of snakes, spiders, scorpions, bullet ants, and hairy caterpillars, just to name a few, all of which can cause some serious problems, says Cliff. The challenges of observing sloths is one of the reasons we know so little about them. But Cliff is working to change that. Her research has shed some light on the lives of sloths. It is only in recent years that we are beginning to see just how the sloth lifestyle is an incredibly successful survival strategy, says Cliff. They are stealthy rather than lazy. An uncertain future. Pygmy sloths' habitat is threatened. The trees they live in are being cut down to make space for farms, roads, and houses. At least 1 acre of rainforest is cleared every second. Given sloths' slow lifestyle and specialized diet, they don't adapt well to rapid changes in their environment. Although the pygmy sloth is the most endangered sloth species, it's not the only sloth species that's in trouble. The main sloths of Brazil are also listed as vulnerable. From power line electrocutions and dog attacks to road collisions, deforestation, and human cruelty, it is a long and sad list of threats, says Cliff. Rainforest destruction threatens many other plants and animals too. Cliff says even little actions, like supporting local farmers and eating less meat, can help save the rainforest. These changes reduce the need to cut down the rainforest for farmland and livestock grazing. For Cliff, the challenges of her slow-paced research are worth it. Working hands-on with sloths is truly magical, she says. I have a real opportunity to learn more about these unusual animals and use the information to make a positive difference.
That's great. I had no idea that algae grows on sloths and that it's I can't even think of the term.
It's a survival mechanism,
yes.
yeah. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but there's a sloth on that tree. And because he's covered in algae, you really can't tell.
Yeah.
So their slow lifestyle protects them.
Yeah. And so the pygmies are like this big.
They're itty bitty. They're little guys.
Cute.
They're even cuter if that's possible for sloths.
All right. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much. And this does it for our Read Aloud. And thank you so much for joining us. If you asked questions and we didn't get to them, we will respond to you in the comments. And again, let us know anything you're wondering, and we'll do our best to answer. And we'll choose 5 people to win a free Scholastic Classroom Magazine subscription of your choice for next year. So thank you for tuning in. Happy World Read Aloud Day, and we'll see you next time.